World of RPGs, Episode 18, Taiwan. Welcome to the World of RPGs, a podcast in which we travel around the globe and learn about the local role-playing game scenes. I'm your host Mobots, and in Episode 18 we're going to Taiwan. Taiwan is an island in East Asia with a population of about 25 million people. The majority language is Mandarin Chinese, though unlike in mainland China, they use traditional Chinese characters. As for religion, like in many East Asian countries, people can have more than one affiliation at the same time, which is usually Chinese folk religion, Buddhism or Taoism. I personally have never been to Taiwan, so there's not much of an introduction, and let's get right into the episode. So, as usual, we begin with the GM from the actual play you heard last episode.
My name is Crispy Fish. That is the name I use on the internet, which happens to be the first two words of they're not like the exact same words, but happens to be the same pronunciation of my real name, the first two words of my real name. Yeah, so that's how I got this. And if you translate it by meaning, it just simply means crispy fish. So that's how I get that. And I have a kind of like persona, or if you would call it a fursona, a little Charmander from Pokemon. Doesn't have anything to do with Pokemon. It's just the first doll I used in my first ever role-playing game video. And that became my avatar from then on. So how I got into role-playing games, I would say it's quite the average experience of Taiwanese role players. Usually we get interested with it by watching some kind of video, whether it's from Taiwan, from Hong Kong, from China, or mostly Japan, in fact. We are mostly influenced by Japanese Call of Cthulhu role-playing games. And that's how I kind of get into that. But I am slightly different. Like, I was interested in it not because of these Japanese videos, but once I knew that these role-playing games exist, I looked it up on the internet, and that's what popped up first. So I got into Call of Cthulhu first. Then I realized I loved Dungeons & Dragons more, so I came to 5th edition. And that is where we are now, at Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and doing content on YouTube revolving Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
So, what kind of content do you do then?
At first, I did like maybe translation or highlights at first. But then, of course, that is like borderline copyright issue. There are some issues surrounding that. So I went to clipping my own games and highlighting my own videos. And so that's some of it. And some of it is like introductory stuff, like how to DM a certain module, or how to DM generally, or how to get along well with your fellow players. So that's most of it. And also I do a little bit of news covering from the Western RPG community. And at last, a little bit of parody songs on D&D. And that is what I enjoy the most, although not the most views, but I do enjoy singing a lot of D&D related songs. So I do a bit of everything, I would say. And currently I'm also into streaming. Some RPG stuff and some non-RPG stuff, both of it.
So, as a teaser for the Taiwan episode, I will use a 2-minute excerpt from one of your actual plays. Can you tell us what kind of setting do you play in? Is it one of the published adventures or something you created on your own?
That is actually semi-official. So it's the official Faroon setting, but written by actually a fellow Taiwanese creator. The script was written by another person, and I do know that person. We, in fact, did a stream on RPG Stories last week. So it's his module, and my 2 highlight videos are both on that module, like the first episode and second episode, back to back.
And so what's the module about?
So are there like spoil alerts, or can I just like say everything?
Okay, I'll ask it in a different way. I had some massive spoilers on some campaigns and some interviews. No, when you do these actual plays, whether it's your own material or from some friends, do you think there are any local culture things, or are they like straight up Faerun stuff like in the English material?
That is a very, very big topic, and we can go a long way on this topic, and I'm willing to. So we have to look at the system we're using first. So in Taiwan, there's kind of a clear division between role players. We have two big systems. So one of it being Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and the other one being Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. And as I mentioned earlier, we were under quite strong Japanese influence, and that resulted in Call of Cthulhu having quite a big community here in Taiwan. If I am not mistaken, it is actually larger than the Dungeons and Dragons community here in Taiwan, which is different from the Western community, right? As far as I'm concerned, it's not huge in Western RPG community, but here in Taiwan, it's actually one of the biggest. And if we're talking about Call of Cthulhu in Taiwan, there are in fact quite a few modules written by creators here in Taiwan that are about Taiwan, like using our society setting, using our culture, using our names and our like work and student trends. So that actually happens quite a lot in Call of Cthulhu. But in Dungeons and Dragons, not so much. In Dungeons and Dragons, mostly people love the original Faerun settings, and we enjoy the feel of medieval Western towns and dungeons. So not so much in Dungeons and Dragons. But if we go out on a tangent for a little bit, there are actually some systems that are 100% based on Taiwanese culture. There do exist these kind of systems, and it's not huge, but it is published and it is played by some people.
When it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, there are some East Asian based books like Oriental Adventures, Karaturth. Are these used in Taiwan?
Yes, it is indeed used in Taiwan, but I believe it's minimal. It's not that mainstream. Like mostly we use any expansion or add-ons we can find, but it's not like emphasized in any way. Like we don't play like maybe samurai just because it's East Asian. It is like on the average popularity, I would say, as far as I'm concerned.
So, when, for example, for Call of Cthulhu, unique Taiwanese material, is there any exchange with other Chinese speaking communities like Hong Kong, etc.? So, maybe you use their modules or they watch the streams from Taiwan. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am really aware of that. So in China, their internet is different, right? They have like their internal internet web, and they do not have YouTube, at least legally. So they have a thing called Bilibili. And on Bilibili, there are quite a lot of Chinese made Call of Cthulhu highlights. They do make quite a lot of that. And usually they are more Japanese oriented, also under very strong Japanese influence. And people in Taiwan enjoy that quite a bit, in fact. People in Taiwan regularly watch, especially Call of Cthulhu players, watch those highlights or playbacks, and it's quite popular. But if we are talking about the other way around, do Chinese or Hong Kong people watch what we make in Taiwan? The answer is probably no. Not because of any reason. It's simply because we do not have that many recorded videos or highlights here in Taiwan or on like traditional Chinese YouTube. There are simply very few of them. I am one of them. And as far as I'm concerned, like there's not a lot content to watch. So I guess that's why we simply don't have enough stuff. And that's also why I'm trying to make more stuff for people to enjoy here on the Taiwanese YouTube.
Okay, if you do actual plays, I guess you do them online. But where do people meet otherwise when they play, or where do you play usually?
So there are home games, of course, just at somebody's home. But as far as I know, the most common place to play like in person is actually board game shops. Like, I'm not sure if it's the same in Turkey or in the US, but we have these board game shops where you could spend like $6 to $8 USD and you can stay for half a day and play from a collection of board games. So that is one of the places, board game shops. Or like board game bars. I'm not sure if there is a direct translation, but there are quite a few of them in Taiwan. And the other place is we actually have stores that are designated, like they are just doing role playing. Like they are designed to serve role playing players, like game stores, but just for RPGs. There are a little bit of them. 3 that I know here in Taiwan that are successful enough. And they have really nice rooms for playing. They have screen tables for your maps, and they borrow you minis. They borrow you Dungeon Masters. I mean rent. So they have like Dungeon Master service. So there are these kind of stores that just do business around playing RPGs. And I've been to 2 of them, and the experiences are pretty nice. And I think that is mainly how people play in person here in Taiwan. Like in Taiwan, our population density is something like the second highest in the world. Our homes are mostly apartments, not very huge. So it's harder for home games. Adding to that is like Asia, we have Eastern Asia to be specific. We have longer working hours. So it's harder to organize your home game. There are still home games, but it will be just easier if you go to one of those stores and you just sign up for an scheduled, organized game. And that is how a lot of people play in person.
You said about homegrown Taiwanese games. Maybe you can say something about them.
There were modules. Most of them are like really small, not at any kind of business level, I would say. They are small and they happen at cons, like comic cons or anime cons. People will print booklets of their homemade modules or their homemade systems, and they will just basically sell them like it's any other game con, comic con, or anime con products. One of them is particularly successful, and that is called 幽冥鬼差. As far as I'm concerned, it's actually acquired by another company. So the rights are bought away by another company in Japan. That one I do know. But the others are more of a local Taiwan level, right? I do have a few of them in my possession, and they are not expensive at all. They're like $5 a booklet and maybe 3 little stories of Call of Cthulhu in them. I do have a few of them, and they are enjoyable and written by very, very talented Taiwanese creators. Some of them are like even maybe Taiwanese RPG celebrities, if you know what I mean. We do have a little community and we do have our celebrities in here.
Okay, the one you mentioned that was acquired by a Japanese publisher. How would that title translate into English, roughly?
Oh my god, that's a really, really hard translation. 幽冥鬼差. Okay, so chai means like missionary or like agent. 鬼 means ghost, so like ghost agents. Kind of like shadow hunter thing. So 幽冥 is just like ghostly and hellish. It's about spirits and it's about agents. It's built on Fate, the role-playing game.
Is there anything you want to add?
I do want to mention that role-playing games in Taiwan are kind of late to the party. We have a growing community and everyone here is like testing, trying, and like just feeling how these TTRPG games would influence Taiwan. Because we do see quite a few like organized events that are very cheap or even free for public to promote TTRPG games, and the public are really, really taking in it. So for example, we have at least, I know there are like 5 different regular events every month we do at local game stores that people would just come in and we'll teach them about TTRPG games. They could learn and play from ground up and just make their character and play and learn about it for a day. So that is one thing. And the other thing is we have a growing YouTube community. People are trying to make TTRPG playbacks or highlights or just streams, and that is actually also going well. But nevertheless, we are quite behind on development if we compare it to Japan or China or even Western community. But things are looking pretty hopeful, and we do hope that in Taiwan these TRPG could be mainstream like in the US someday. It could become not just a little game somebody plays or not just some kind of nerd hobby. We hope it would be enjoyed by a lot of people someday.
So what it's like to get into TTRPGs in Taiwan and how does it differ to other countries? I talked to a couple with different pathways into the hobby.
My name is Julia. I was born in New Zealand, but my parents are both Taiwanese. And I got into role-playing game when I was quite young, probably somewhere around 10, which started from my cousin's house. They had a computer and they bought this game. I don't know what it's called in English because it's a Taiwanese RPG game. It's very fantasy, ancient Chinese story that is a role-playing game, and it was very, very popular when it came out back then. So it started from that computer game when I first played role-playing games. That was the first role-playing game that I played. And then later on, I got into more console games like PlayStation. And that was introduced to me from my older sister. She's a lot older than me. So she had a job, so she had a PlayStation, and she knew that I like Harry Potter. And so she bought the Harry Potter PlayStation game for me. So that was one. And then PlayStation 2 came out. And so I got a part-time job because I wanted to buy the PlayStation 2 because I wanted to play Onimusha. I really wanted to play that game. So I took a part-time job, and when I got my first salary, that's what I spent it on. I started playing more PC games like Grand Theft Auto 3 and then Fallout 3. And then the most interesting part about when I was playing Grand Theft Auto was during the time that it was very popular, my friends and I joined these people online that they use the Grand Theft Auto mods. And we basically joined one of the online mods and we started our own gang inside the game. And yeah, it was quite fun role-playing as a Yakuza member with my friends in Grand Theft Auto. So yeah, that was one. That was basically when I was younger. Those were the games that I played.
And do you also play tabletop role-playing games?
Yeah, when I met my husband, he enjoyed D&D, and I thought it would be quite fun. So yeah, I asked him if I could join. So I played. Only just recently that I started to play D&D because we didn't really have that many people around us that play D&D, but I knew that he has a lot of experience playing D&D, and I was always very interested. And then right now, lately, that we finally got some people that were his friends back in the old days that when he used to play D&D. And then I said that I would like to join. And so only recently that I started to play D&D. Yeah.
Speaking of your husband, maybe you can also introduce yourself and tell us how you got into role-playing games.
I played D&D since 1999, and I helped to translate the third edition D&D rule books in traditional Chinese. So because I was working in the company that sells books and also the foreign computer games. So I have a chance and I know the people and I was interested in all kinds of RPG. So I help them to connect to each other, and we sell many books of the D&D, the third edition, and also 3.5 version too. So I have experience of being a dungeon master for like 20 years. But recently I play Baldur's Gate 3 with my wife because I thought she will love it. And she turns out to addicted more than me. So after she played for
1,500.
yeah 1,500 hours later, I asked her, "Do you interested in playing real people face to face role playing games?" Because I'm not sure if she will love it because there's not so many people
It's
around.
not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. Yeah, just like we are adult and over 30 years old still playing role playing game is kind of embarrassing. The truth is, we enjoy it. I introduced them into Feyran, the Forgotten Realm, because that's where Baldur's Gate is from. Because I think all the cities and the people and all the monster inside and the story will be familiar to her. So I introduced them to the Fendelin, the small town Fendelin, yeah, because it's from the starter of 5th edition. And since then, we had like 10 sessions in last 8 months.
How was it like changing from the video game to the tabletop game? How did that feel?
I think I enjoy doing the role playing part a lot. I wouldn't say it's completely different from being in like a computer game because whenever I play a role playing game, I put a lot of role playing inside, whether it's a computer game or it's a tabletop game. I always love, musicals and theaters, so
Drama.
yeah, I'm a little bit dramatic, and so I think that that part of my personality really helps me get into the character. I mean, it's fun to play someone that is not you, so it's totally an escape from life, yeah, from reality. And I mean, I love the D&D backstory. I love the whole
And working is so boring.
well, I like the whole, fighting dragons and the fantasy part of the whole story. So
Through conversations, right?
yeah,
You talk.
yeah, I do a lot of talking. I do a lot
And the
of
dragons just
persuading.
die.
Yeah, and
Too much talking
yeah.
and die.
Yeah, I like to talk to the enemies.
When you play, do you play at a table or do you play online?
Table.
Face to face.
We tried online before and it's just not the same. It's not the same. Especially when you're playing with Taiwanese players. They are not very into role playing.
We use Roll20 online, VTT, and it turned out no good because those Taiwanese lame.
The players.
The players don't know how to role play. So I think we both disappointed, and a couple sessions after we say we don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. And I think there was a point where because they're not so used to role playing, so when they meet a player that is very into role playing, they kind of get even more reserved. They're like, whoa, you're acting a bit over the top.
Yeah.
And they don't like it because it's not what they used to. So we quit the online part about
because also
2 or 3 times.
Also,
afterwards.
I think the DM is so damn. So maybe I just better I will start to be the dungeon master again because I dreamed about to being a player before, but so many DMs just let me down. So maybe I should be one. Yeah. But I enjoy to role play with my players. I encourage them to be different characters. I bought so many new books. I feel happy. Yeah. And because my wife is playing, so she won't blame me for wasting money like that.
It's not wasting money.
Too many books, so many board games, but the house is so small.
But when you play at the table, is it like at someone's home or do you meet outside?
We play at home with other people. We invite our friends to come over to our home and play D&D.
Yeah, because the table is so small, so we can only play for 1 DM and 3 players.
Yeah.
There's no seats for the 4th player.
Yeah.
Or I should stand.
Maybe you should stand next time.
Yeah, maybe I should stand next time.
And Julia, have you tried any other tabletop role-playing games except D&D?
Not yet. Well, I just recently started D&D, so I would say I'm a beginner.
Yeah, she's a beginner for tabletop role-playing games, and I'm still waiting for my Marvel Multiverse RPG books come.
But I would like to try other stuff as well, because
like
I think
COC, Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to try other stuff as well.
Also, there will be Alien RPG as well.
Yeah.
Finally, let's listen to a GM with some more detail about homegrown games.
Hi, for being a DM, I call myself Ugur. It's a name for a dwarf because for my first time to play TRPG, I use dwarf as my character, and my DM asked me to pick a name. So I Google it, and then I find this name, and it's very easy to pronounce in Chinese. So I choose this to play TRPG. Then, as I be a DM, I also introduce myself by use this name. So after I create my studio and I try to introduce on the web, and I think I need to use a name that make people to remember me. So I still use this name Ugur. And then in Taiwan, I got my fan page and I also use this name. It's for 4 or 5 years that I joined into this TRPG game. And then till now, everyone who knows me in this game, they know me as Ugur the Dwarf.
And which games do you play now?
I now play D&D 5e and the game designed by myself. I really like to design some game that can make players easier to join the game, to not spend too much time to study for the rule, that they can just sit down by the table and then they can just try to role play, and I will tell them what the rule is. So I usually play this D&D 5e and my game, and also some Call of Cthulhu, and that is my favorite game also.
So can you tell us about unique tabletop role-playing games from Taiwan?
As far as I know, there has always been a passionate and creative group of people in Taiwan who constantly design and publish TRPG that reflect the unique characteristic and culture of Taiwan. For instance, there is apocalypse syndrome. In Taiwanese, we call it 天喜症候群, and that is in Chinese apocalypse syndrome. That is a game designed by Taiwanese, a game that creates a deep emotional connection between players and the game master. In this game, players play as a group of knights who protect the sovereign, which is the game master, and help defend the world against the threat of giants. And the powerful giants are on the verge of victory. The sovereign can sacrifice part of their vitality to recover the knights, leading to very interesting emotional entanglements. Another example is this game, which do not have an English name, so I just pronounce the Chinese. It's 幽冥鬼差, which you can understand that like a ghost hunter, which is based on Taiwanese folk beliefs. And player take on their role to entice similar like reapers, and then they can capture some ghosts who threaten the human world and help lost soul to find their way to reincarnation. And these are very interesting game in Taiwan, which created by Taiwanese. Also, I create my own game, which still not published out, but I created to play with my friend or also to play with a lot of players which want to join to TRPG game that they have no time to study for a lot of rule. Then I can let them to join this game very easy. Then for this purpose, I design my game, and the name is Adventure Zone. In Taiwanese, I call it 出发冒险. The game is set in a sword and magical world where players can design their ideal hero in the most personalized way possible. Our system offers highly flexible skill and a unique item design space, allowing players to create their own character and the story together with the game master as quickly as possible. So this, as I know, and my game in Taiwanese is very unique.
And what other games have been translated from English in Taiwan?
The most well-known example is Dungeon and Dragon 3E, which has an official Chinese version published. Later editions have fan translations. There are also major systems like Call of Cthulhu and Pan's Fighter, which have been translated and published by various parties or through fan translations. We are very passionate about exploring different systems, and there are very lot of fans in Taiwan as well.
And just to make it clear, because I also have an episode on mainland China and Hong Kong, if it's printed, the written form, it's always the same, isn't it? If you can read a book from Hong Kong.
Yeah,
And if people set out to play Dungeons and Dragons or Call of Cthulhu, where do they meet? So do they go to shops or do they play at home? How does this work?
in Taiwan, there are many board game stores in the northern, central, and the southern regions that host TRPG game clubs. Additionally, many private clubs offer space to play these games. In Taipei, some well-known store like board game store called Grow Life or Ju board game provide a comfortable play space to make people can play TRPG in there. And also like me, I rent a space that I can invite some player to come to my place, and then we can have some quiet and comfortable place to play TRPG. And there is a lot of board game store which now starting to host TRPG game in Taiwan. So maybe right now here, still a lot of people play on internet or just stay in their home, but it's got more and more people trying to get out and come to board game store or trying to find some studio who can host the game like us. So in Taiwan, a few years ago, there's not many people who know TRPG. But by now, for these 2 years, there's more and more people knowing this game and trying to find way to play this. So we are trying to let more and more people to know this game.
And what about conventions?
As I know, there's not lot of conventions because for now there's very few people to know this game, so we still join to other like fantasy conventions or a lot of other board game conventions to present our game. So here now we are not have our own conventions to host, but we are still working on it.
Can you tell me about actual play channels from Taiwan?
Here now is a lot of people trying to play online and then trying to show it out. Like we can see there's a lot of YouTubers trying to play, but they are not very famous. But as I know, my fan page got some people know, and we also presented our game in my fan page, or some YouTuber like in Taiwanese called Su Yu is a very great YouTuber that he can report some news for TRPG that is a very famous and very good YouTuber in Taiwan.
Is there anything you want to add?
In Taiwan, we work hard to trying to let more and more people to know TRPG, and we try to make this as real job or real famous game to let more and more people to know, because we believe that is a very good game that can make people make friends with each other, or make children can learn something from to making friends, and we can try to say something in every story. So it's a very unique game that we really want to let more and more people to know this game. I make this as my career, and I try to feed myself with this job. And I hope after this interview can make more people to know me and your channel, and maybe someday in Taiwan we can let the most of people to know this game.
So thank you for listening to episode 18 of The World of RPGs. The intro music was Battle of the Dragons by Thomas Mutsu, and the logo is by Albert Karakash. A special thanks goes out to all my interviewees from Taiwan that helped bring this together. As always, you can find links to everyone I interview with a website or games, the game studios and more in the show notes. Please follow and like this podcast on your player of choice or the social media you follow. My main haunt these days is Blue Sky. And I don't have any recommendations for now, so why not search itch.io for some new ideas? To be fair, the IO domain might soon be retired. It stands for the British Indian Ocean Colonies, if you were wondering. So that indie gaming repository might soon be renamed. And as for the next episode, I noticed I've almost done 20 episodes now, and all of them were about Europe or Asia, and this definitely has to change. I really want to cover South America and Africa someday, but before we can do that, we have to return to Europe, specifically to those places where the majority languages in Latin America come from.
Bai, gerlari handia que izan nahi dugu. Gureita gerlari handia zen. Eta...
Bai?
Bai,
Nola zuen izena?
Teknikoki ni gerlaria ez, baina bueno.
Bueno, baina berak oso ongi sendatzen du. Gerlariak sendatzen ditu perfecto.
Wait. That was a minority language from the country, unrelated to any other European language. Here's a session in the majority language and they're playing an Asian-themed TTRPG from that country.
Yo he visto todo lo que pasaba alrededor, he visto que todos caían, he visto a Kiori diciendo, hoy he tenido un mal día, voy a pagarlo con este muñeco. Y digo, vamos, podemos con ellos. Y decido levantar las manos mientras tengo apoyado el pie en el patín, que es como mi foco de poder, y quiero hacer un torbellino para separar la bola de arriba de la de abajo. Rollo, llevármela de arriba volando por los aires.
Vale, perfecto. Muy bien. Akane, ¿qué quieres hacer?
Yo voy a lanzar otra.
Hola, perfecto.
Ha funcionado la primera vez.
Kiori, ¿qué haces?
Yo entiendo que lo de las sombras funciona también, repetir un poco, pero esta vez más enfocada a partirlo por la mitad igual. Coger la parte de la sombra de la cabeza y la parte de la sombra de la parte de atrás y pues...
Vale. Perfecto.
Wow.
Muy bien.
Estaba entrando rápido.
Y Hanna, ¿qué haces?
Me preparo para proteger a alguien.
Perfecto, vale. Pues, Hanna, tírame con protectora.
Ok.
Y luego... Vale. Luego... tú atacabas, ¿no? Hemos quedado, o sea...
Sí, atacando.
Vale, pues tú con combativa, Akane con entregada porque ha hecho esa bola, tú, Kiori, también con combativa, y Akemi, pues tú también, tú con entregada o combativa, que ahora te digo cuánto tienes, ¿vale?
Para que tenga más, que
Tienes un más uno en ambos, así que...
Bueno, pues
Por cierto,
entregada porque soy pasional.
Un 7 está bien, es un parcial.
Por cierto, Ale,
¿Y no te
tengo
gusta?
aquí en Elegida por los Guardianes el poder de la justicia, que me da azote +1.
Sí, eso es que puedes matar un bichito extra.
Que mato uno más.
Sí.
Vale. Entonces, que no es que tenga que añadir un +1 a la tirada, ¿no?